Access Minnesota. Issues that matter to you. Access Minnesota brings you the newsmakers and the stories that shape our everyday lives, with analysis from University of Minnesota faculty experts.
Despite a cold and snowy climate for much of the year, Minneapolis has been named the best bike city in America. This month on Access Minnesota, we discover what makes the Twin Cities such a great place for bicycles. Later on in the show, we'll learn about cycling fitness, basic bike maintenance, and safety. But first, a look at what the city of Minneapolis is doing to promote biking. Shaun Murphy tells us about Nice Ride, the country's largest bike share program, and plans for future bike trails throughout the city. Shaun Murphy is the non-motorized pilot project coordinator for the city of Minneapolis. Shaun, welcome to Access Minnesota.
Thanks, Jim.
First of all, Shaun, where are we standing? What's the significance of this place?
We're standing on the Cedar Lake Trail in downtown Minneapolis right now, and the significance of this exact place is that this is a new trail as of this year. Up until this year, we had a nice, what's called a bicycle freeway that comes in from St. Louis Park, a suburb of Minneapolis, and it stops here just short of downtown, on the edge of downtown. And now this section of trail, this last mile, is going to actually carry people through downtown, so they no longer have to get up on the streets in downtown, and they can head all the way to West River Parkway to the Mississippi River, where there's another bike path.
Minneapolis was recently named the best bike city in America. What has the city been doing for the past few years to earn that title?
Our main focus has been building infrastructure. So building off-street paths where people don't have to be next to cars. They can get separated from cars. And then another big piece of what we've been doing is on-street stuff. So we've been painting lanes so that when people do need to get on the streets, they can have a separate space from cars with painted white lines. Another strategy we've been doing is actually taking bicyclists to side streets, because a lot of times, you know, a white line isn't enough for certain people to get out on the street on a bike. But there might be a quiet side street nearby that if we do some traffic calming and some advertisement that it's a bike street, it's a great place to bike. So the River Lake Greenway, 40th Street in South Minneapolis is a good example of what we're calling a bike boulevard, where cyclists can go for respite.
Tell us more about the Nice Ride program.
Yeah, the Nice Ride program is what's called bike sharing, and it's a pretty simple program. All you need is a credit card or a debit card of some sort, and we have kiosks set up out in the streets, and those kiosks hold bikes, anywhere from about 10 to 25 bicycles. And with a swipe of a credit card, you can check out a bike for a short trip. We have about 60 kiosks around town. I think that's going to be going up to about 100 later this year. So if you check out a bike, say in Uptown, and you want to get to downtown, you can bet that there'll be another kiosk within a couple blocks of where you're going to be. So it makes it really convenient for folks if they don't own a bike or they come to Minneapolis and they're just visiting, to just go and grab a bike and get around that way.
How many people are participating in Nice Ride?
The number of trips that were taken last year was, I believe, 100,000 trips. And they started in June and they went to about November 1st. So it was an incredibly popular start to it, and it's really fun to see all sorts of people. I know a lot of out-of-towners especially. That's the big market for Nice Ride. It's really fun to see all sorts of people, all stripes of people on these bikes, and you can't miss the bikes. They're green, so if you come to Minneapolis, you will notice the bikes going by.
What are some of the benefits of participating in the Nice Ride program?
Like I said, the main thing is convenience. It's very simple. You don't have to go to a bike shop and rent a bike and sign a bunch of forms and check out a bunch of things. You don't have to worry about a lock. You can just check out a bike, go to another kiosk and push it in. It's also pretty affordable too. It's $5 for one day. You have to always get the bikes back to another kiosk within 30 minutes to not get additional charges so that they stay in the system. But also you can do an annual subscription if you come to Minneapolis regularly or if you live here or work here, and those are $60 a year. So it's pretty affordable as well.
Well, Shaun, given how convenient the Nice Ride program is, have you heard of anybody saying, you know, I'm going to give up my bike. I don't want to be doing regular maintenance on it when I can participate in this program and always get a bike that's in nice shape? Do you hear anything about that?
I'm sure people are saying that. I haven't heard that directly, but I know that I leave my bike oftentimes at home because I don't want to deal with the maintenance headache of upkeeping my bike. It's much easier to let someone else upkeep the bike. The convenience of these bikes, the Nice Ride bikes, is that they have fenders, they have chain guards so that you won't get your pants or your dress or whatever you're wearing caught in the chains. They have baskets on the front. They have built-in headlights and taillights so that once you pedal, the lights start flashing. And they're very easy to pedal. So if you haven't biked in a long time, in 10 or 20 or more years, they're very easy to pedal. So you never forget how to ride a bike, and if you haven't in a while, when you come to Minneapolis, definitely grab one of the green bikes.
Is the Nice Ride program unique to Minneapolis, or are there similar programs that you've heard about elsewhere?
At the time it launched last June, it was fairly unique to the country. There was only one system previously, and ours was the biggest system at that time with about 600 bikes and 60 stations. It's now been outpaced by other cities like Washington, D.C., and all sorts of cities are, if not looking into it, actually launching these things.
Shaun, tell us about some other things the city of Minneapolis is doing to promote cycling.
Recently, the city produced a bicycle map. So we printed 30,000 maps that we hand out to folks. We also have it online. So folks can go and print off PDFs of different sections of the city and see where it's a good spot to bike. Another thing we do is we're really well known for the amount of bicycle parking that we have. So we have the most bicycle parking per capita of any large city in the country. And actually our zoning code requires that new and refurbished buildings put in bicycle parking just like they would put in car parking when they build a bank or a daycare center or a new apartment complex.
Tell us about some of the bike trails that may be planned for the future in Minneapolis.
One important link that's planned for is under the new 35W bridge. When the bridge was built a couple years ago, there was a tunnel put in on the south side of the bridge. And that tunnel is going to connect downtown with the University of Minnesota eventually. The tunnel's blocked off right now until we can actually build a trail right up to the tunnel and until we can make it safe for everyone by putting in lighting. And that's going to be a really important connection when that gets done. And we are getting close to the point, I won't say we're quite there yet, but we're getting close to the point where we are coming up with an equivalent to the freeway system for cars, for bikes. This link right here where we're standing, the Cedar Lake Trail, you could look at this as like the last mile of I-94 being completed, because now folks can come all the way out from Chaska, just 40 miles away, into downtown Minneapolis. And in Minneapolis, we really have a world-class trail system. There aren't many cities around the world, even in Europe, that have such an extensive trail system, around all of our lakes and our river and our creek and around our parkways.
Let's say someone watching is now suddenly motivated and they say, I really want to bike to work. What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to be a bicyclist commuter and works downtown?
I think the first advice I would give if you work downtown is ask around at the office and see who else bikes in. Ask them about their experience with it. Ask them about the routes that they take and the equipment that they have. I think it's also important not to make it too complicated, to remember that all you really need to bike is a bicycle and yourself. There are many other things you can add to make it more comfortable, to make it more safe, but really it's a fairly simple thing. And another tip is that it's really good to do a dry run. So if you're planning to head to work on Monday morning and you really think I'm going to bike and I'm going to make this work, and then you happen to be running a little late, and then you don't expect that you can't take Hennepin Avenue into downtown Minneapolis because there are no bike lanes on it. You're used to driving it. You might need to pick a different route. You don't want to do that on a Monday morning when there's a lot of traffic out there. You want to do it maybe on a Sunday morning when there's not very much traffic out there.
Shaun Murphy is the non-motorized pilot project coordinator for the city of Minneapolis. Or Shaun, as you said before we started the interview, you're the guy who does a lot of bike stuff. Shaun, thanks so much for joining us on Access Minnesota.
Yeah, thank you.
When Access Minnesota returns, a look at basic bike maintenance and how to stay safe on the roads and trails.
Access Minnesota will return after these messages.